high expectation teachers actually, because they were in different schools doing, or largely, but doing different, they had developed, they all had a very strong teaching philosophy. They all had very strong ideas about what constitutes good teaching. But as I said, none of them ability grouped. But they did different things. So those things that they did became part of the intervention. So for example, there were ones who had whole class kinds of activities, but then to some degree they would differentiate between the actual activities that they were doing. So for example, one of the teachers gave an example of, we might be creating a big book for the junior people, but some of the students would create that book for themselves to share within the class, and other students would use their big book to go and read to juniors. You know, so just, they're fairly minor, but they're not constantly giving students messages that one group's better than another. The other way, and this is probably the way that I've mostly worked with because it kind of reflects our traditional model, but it's a bit of a step away, is that several of the high expectation teachers would pull out students for particular skills that they needed, so not ability grouping, because you're getting different students coming for different skills, but there were never restrictions placed on the activities that students were completing. So for example, in reading, they would have various activities, and within those activities there would be reading books that went from the very lowest levels to the very highest. But the teacher is not saying, hang on, you can't read that book, you're only on level 3. The children choose what they read. I mean, we have this very strong conception in New Zealand that reading has to be very linear. And I mean, you sort of step back and you think, why do we have to teach reading like that? If a child is really interested in dinosaurs and picks up a book about dinosaurs, and they're supposedly a low-level reader, but they work through the book and they read it, is that a problem? Why is that such a problem in New Zealand? And yet it does seem to be. And one of the things that also came through clearly with the high expectation teachers was that they were challenging students well above where they supposedly were at the time. And the kids are rising to those challenges. Kids enjoy being challenged. We enjoy being challenged. We don't enjoy doing stuff that's mundane and boring day after day after day, which is what often happens with the kids in the lower level groups. So it's about restructuring the reading program, or the maths program is the same thing, where you're teaching the concepts or the skills, but you're setting up the activities in a way that means students are choosing where they are. I mean, I can give another example in maths where one of the high expectation teachers, she was a year 5-6 teacher, and these boys were year 6, they had just come into her class, it was the beginning of the year, she'd been told they were absolutely dreadful, they couldn't do maths, they didn't know even basic facts, they could not even add 2 single-digit numbers together. So she found out that they were really interested in cricket. So she set up all these maths activities around cricket. So these boys who couldn't add single-digit numbers were working out run rates and batting averages. It's like, because they were interested in the activity. And I think that's one of the keys as well, is that we need to think about, you know, what's going to turn kids on. Why do they have to read books about, I don't know, sheep, when they're not interested in sheep, but they're really interested in cars or cooking or, you know, whatever it happens to be. And the high expectation teachers took student interest into account a lot more than what I've seen other teachers do.